Welcome to Sports Guy Talking. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about where Derek Carr could potentially sign with. With the Raiders moving on from Derek Carr, this now leaves Derek Carr some options as to where he will land on his next NFL team. Derek Carr was set to be traded to the Saints via trade, but Derek Carr rejected the trade offer since he has a no trade clause. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. Which NFL team will sign Derek Carr in free agency? So when you look at Derek Carr, he's been on the team for 9 years. On the Raiders, he never won a single playoff game. He's only made the playoffs twice, only played in one playoff game. And a lot of people are giving blowback as to how the Raiders treated Derek Carr on the way out, saying that he's basically the greatest quarterback that they've had in franchise history and how he's been an elite quarterback. And honestly, I could not further disagree from that. Do I think that the Raiders treated Derek Carr the right way on the way out? No, I don't think they did. I don't think they did the right thing by benching him. They should have let him finish out the season. It's not like Derek Carr was terrible. It's not like Derek Carr was trash. In fact, I wouldn't even say Derek Carr is the main reason why the Raiders are what they are. The Raiders are what they are because of their front office, their ownership, and their coaching. I mean, Derek Carr has had a lot of coaches come by over his 9 years on the Raiders. He's had Dennis Allen. He's had Tony Sparano as the interim coach. He's had Jack Del Rio. He's had John Gruden. Then he's had Rich Bisaccia as the interim. And then he had Josh McDaniels. Anytime any quarterback has those combinations, it's going pretty difficult for a quarterback to succeed. With all of that being said, though, when you look at Derek Carr, though, what does he do that seems to yell effective? What does he seem to do that yells elite? I see that he puts up a lot of numbers, but those numbers aren't translating to wins. And I know that Derek Carr, he hasn't had a good defense around him. But honestly, you know who once upon a time put up good numbers and had a good defense but couldn't win when it mattered most? Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton was a quarterback that could put up numbers back in the day on the Cincinnati Bengals, and he had a good defense, and what happened? He always found a way to melt come playoff time. When you look at Derek Carr, he's more similar to Andy Dalton than what many people seem to realize. I'm not talking about modern day Andy Dalton. Modern day Andy Dalton is not a good quarterback. I'm talking about Andy Dalton on the Bengals kind of version. When you look at Derek Carr, he's a solid quarterback. There's not anything he does that says that he's not a terrible quarterback, nor does it say he's a great quarterback. When you look at Derek Carr, he's just all around solid. He's not a needle mover for a franchise. He's not going to change life for an NFL team. All this hype about Derek Carr being this, Derek Carr being that, I say it's a bunch of hogwash. Now, I know Derek Carr, he's had a lot of 4,000-yard seasons, but honestly, when has that ever translated to him winning, quite frankly? There's a reason why Derek Carr's got the most losses in his first 9 years as a starter or something like that. It's really not that good. I know that he was not on a good team on the Raiders, but at the same time though, just because a quarterback's not on a good team and he puts up numbers doesn't mean that I should just excuse him. If we were to play that case, and that means Carson Wentz is a good quarterback. I guarantee you guys that almost nobody is thinking that right now. I know some people once upon a time thought Carson Wentz was an elite quarterback. Obviously, he's not. The point is, what I'm trying to say with Derek Carr is, yes, he's starting caliber and he's a starting caliber quarterback. He can definitely play in the National Football League. But as far as him being a top level quarterback in the National Football League, that couldn't be further from the truth. And he had weapons this year. He had Devontae Adams. He had Hunter Renfrow. He had Darren Waller. He had Josh Jacobs. The O-line is pretty good. And defensively, they did have some talent in there with Max Crosby and Chandler Jones. And despite that, the Raiders still underachieved. Do I think Derek Carr was the main reason? No, of course not. Josh McDaniels was the main reason. Ownership was the main reason why they even got Josh McDaniels. They should have kept Rich Bisaccia. He honestly wasn't that bad of a coach for the Raiders. He actually took the Raiders to the playoffs, something that his predecessor, John Gruden, couldn't quite do. Anyways, but when you talk about Derek Carr, man, he's a solid quarterback, but he's not amazing. And he's not a needle mover for a franchise. He's not this guy that everybody's saying, oh my God, he's going to change life for a franchise. I'm not even sure if he really provides you stability at the quarterback position. He might be entering journeyman status right now. And when you look at Derek Carr right now, I've seen that his contract projection is 3 years, $114 million, $113 million, whatever the case may be. It's something like that. I saw it on the cap tracker. And what I will say is that if someone signs me to that contract, that I'm telling you guys that that's going to be a major disappointment for you guys, because Derek Carr is not a $38 million player per year. He's a stopgap option where if he needs to give you starts, he can do that. If he can be an amazing back, go ahead and do that. I think that he should be a starting quarterback. But if someone told me that he's not starting caliber material, I wouldn't be too angered at him. When you look at some teams that could potentially sign Derek Carr in free agency, you're thinking about the entire NFC South. That means the Saints, the Bucs, the Panthers, the Falcons. You think about the New York Jets. You think about the Indianapolis Colts, the Tennessee Titans. They could possibly be in the mix. Washington Commanders, you can't rule them out. And a dark horse team that I think would be the perfect fit for Derek Carr would be the Miami Dolphins. I'll get to that in a moment. But as far as where Derek Carr could land, the reason why I say the New Orleans Saints, he's got familiarity with Dennis Allen, and he's going to be working with the best defense that he's ever had in the Saints. And quite frankly, he's a little bit like Andy Dalton. They did have Andy Dalton as a starter last year, so maybe if the Saints believe that he can be a better version of Andy Dalton, you know what? This guy's worth taking a flyer on. And obviously, if you're New York Jets, you can do anything by upgrading from Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson was a terrible quarterback for the New York Jets, so they probably feel like Derek Carr is going to be a superstar by any means. So they probably feel like if they sign Derek Carr, they can be a playoff team. I'm going to say the New York Jets should fish for bigger fish out there and try to get a guy like Aaron Rodgers, because they have a real chance to land a 4-time NFL MVP player. So that's how I'm going to look at it. I look at the Titans and the Colts. They're teams that are playing weak divisions, but honestly, their rosters are just too flawed for Derek Carr to join at this point. So I would pass up on those teams if I was Derek Carr. And if you're the Commanders, I mean, I'm hearing that the Commanders are going to stick with Sam Howell. I like that move. I think that move's going to be beneficial for both sides. I don't think getting Derek Carr is going to solve a lot of problems for the Washington Commanders. I mean, the Commanders have been going the veteran route for many years. It's clearly not working. So at that point, they might as well just go with a young quarterback. So that's what I would do. And the Miami Dolphins, the reason why I listed them as a dark horse candidate is because they got weapons. They got Tyreek Hill, they got Jalen Waddle, they got Mike Gesicki that they could possibly resign, and you got Mike McDaniel coaching that team. If you could put Derek Carr on that team, they might be a pretty good team. And even though Tua played well for the Dolphins last year, he can't stay healthy, and Derek Carr would be an amazing backup, which is why it's a dark horse team for the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, Derek Carr would have to sacrifice some money in order to potentially make even bigger money come 2024. And I said the entire NFC South because their quarterback situation is a mess. Ultimately, though, I would say that Derek Carr should go with the New Orleans Saints because he's got familiarity with Dennis Allen. He's got Chris Olave. The defense is going to be solid. So that's where I see Derek Carr landing. I'm not saying this is going to be a good move for the Saints. I can tell you as a division rival fan, because I root for the Carolina Panthers, I hope Derek Carr signs with the New Orleans Saints because he doesn't change life for a franchise. If Derek Carr signs with the Saints, remember the Saints are over the cap, so they're probably going to have to lose some players and or restructure some contracts, making their long-term situation even worse. So I would personally am hoping and thinking that the New Orleans Saints will land with Derek Carr. Maybe Derek Carr signs like a 2-year, $80 million deal, something like that. So that is why Derek Carr will be signed by the New Orleans Saints in free agency. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @DustinTran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @DustinTran and @Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @DustinTran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video. Comment down below. Check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel, Sports Guy Talking.